Hi guys, I'm Rochelle and I'm a Ravenclaw. Today I'm here to share with you guys my Tome Topple wrap-up. Now Tome Topple is a 2-week readathon. I'm sure you guys have heard a lot about it. It's been pretty much everywhere for the last few weeks. It's a 2-week readathon designed to motivate you to read your tomes, which is defined as a book that has over 500 pages. Now from the thumbnail, I'm sure you can tell that I read 6 books during those 2 weeks. All of them designated as tomes. Go me. So I'm just going to quickly jump in and tell you guys what I read during Tome Topple. The first book that I want to share with you guys is Written in Red by Anne Bishop. I loved this book. This is one of the 2 audiobooks that I listened to during the readathon. I gave this 5 stars. This was a fantastic urban fantasy. The narrator was exquisite, like completely embodied all of the characters. So Meg, the main character, she's something called Cassandra Sangue, which is a blood prophet. Every time she gets cut, Meg has a vision of the future. Meg manages to escape from the people in charge of her and winds up joining a group called the Others. Now the Others are a group of magical beings like shapeshifters, elementals, vampires, who have their own set of laws and don't really follow human laws while they live on their land. Just go read this. 5 stars. Fantastic. The next book that I want to talk to you guys about is Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. Finally got around to reading this old thing. This is a classic, very, very popular, very well loved. I gave this 4 stars. I found it really easy to consume, unlike a lot of other classics. It wasn't like super dense or like really heavy in tone. The only thing that I had an issue with this is I knew like the plot twist at the end. So I spent most of my time reading being like, I wonder when this is going to get revealed, I wonder how, this is going to be handled, etc., etc. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. There is some small trigger warnings that I want to give for child abuse and like mental illness present in this, and death by illness. If you are at all interested in reading a classic, I would definitely recommend that you pick up a Bronte book. And the next book that I want to tell you guys all about is The Burning Stone by Kate Elliott. This is the 3rd book in a series. I have read a few things by Kate Elliott before, and now I'm just going through her backlog and trying to like catch up on all her work. This is 916 pages long. I ended up giving this 4 stars. I enjoy Kate Elliott's writing, but I'm finding some of the plot lines in here not as interesting or overly drawn out, and whether that's because she has to cover a lot of ground with other characters. There's a lot of stuff some characters have to do and not a whole lot for certain other characters to be doing. So this wasn't exactly as well balanced as I would like, but I still really, really enjoyed it, and I can't wait to get to the next one. The next book that I want to talk to you guys about was my other audiobook that I listened to during this readathon, and that is Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie. I feel like the audiobook for this was a mistake. I did not like the narrator. It was really difficult because the first couple of chapters of this book were pretty info dumpy, and you have the problem of like fantasy names. Some of them sound quite similar sometimes, and so you get a little confused about what's going on. Overall, I enjoyed a lot of the storylines. There was like 1 or 2 characters who I'm just like, I don't really care. Like, I have to care because clearly you're important, but you bore me and you're a shit person, basically. Audiobook was definitely a mistake. I really didn't like the narrator. I didn't like his voice, and he could be quite monotonous at times, so I would like tune out and then I have to be like, wait, what's happening? Rewind to get back to where I had turned off. I will probably continue with the series even if I just read the next book in this, and I'll either read that as an ebook or I'll read a physical book, and hopefully that will help things. I do want to give a small trigger warning. There is an instance of suicide in this book. Be aware of that if that is something that you find damaging. So that's that. And the second to last book that I got to in my tome topple journey was Blood Song by Anthony Ryan. I really enjoyed this. I would sit down, I would read it, I would get up, I would eat, I would go to the bathroom, and then I would immediately sit down and read it again. I gave this 4 stars. You can tell that this book was originally self-published. Like, there's a couple of grammatical errors and some like spelling errors smattered throughout this. I'm normally pretty okay with this, but there are a couple of times where I had to go back and reread sentences and mentally put in the appropriate commas necessary, which can lead to some confusing things, like you're not entirely sure how something happened and it's because a comma's not where it needs to be. This is the first book in a trilogy. The author did originally self-publish this, as I've mentioned. This follows a man who was originally the son of like the realm war general, so he's pretty important, and he gives his son to the militarized arm of their faith, and this is about his journey and his trials as he becomes a master level in that order. There was something in particular that I really enjoyed about this book because it reminded me very specifically of my favorite book of all time, The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. This also has the storytelling style of that, like it's him relating his journeys to another person. So I really enjoy that method of storytelling. I find it really unique, and you can tell when they're like not really quite telling you the whole story about what's going on. This book is pretty dark. Like, I would give trigger warnings for rape, I would give trigger warnings for suicide, I would give trigger warnings for abuse and violence, and there's a lot of like not PG themes in this book, so be aware of that before you pick it up. I really enjoyed it. I hope to be reading the next one very soon. The last and biggest thing that I read during Tome Topple was this, The Infinity Gauntlet by Jim Starlin. This thing, I don't know if you can tell, is a whopping 1,248 pages. This is enormous. Like, I'm having trouble holding this up. Yeah. This has some stuff going on. I borrowed this book off my sister. She's a pretty big comic book nerd. She loves Marvel, she loves DC. I don't really get as much out of this particular style of comic. I find that the character development isn't as much as I would like. The problem with this particular story is it's an amalgamation of several Marvel superheroes. A few of them we know from the cinematic universe now, but there's also several that I've never heard of. I don't know any of their backstory. and that made it a little more difficult to understand why they were present, what was going on. A lot of the ones that I haven't heard of, like Adam Warlock and Cloak and Dagger, are getting their own like TV shows or their own movies, or they'll be appearing in other movies very soon. So yeah, it was good to have some backstory for this. I gave this 3 stars. It was a lot of reading for not a lot of payoff, and this isn't even the complete story. This follows the Infinity Gauntlet in its creation and its first uses, but at the end of this, and my sister did one of me of this, the end of this is the Infinity Gauntlet is still in play, someone has it, and to get a really fulfilling story you also need to go out and read like another 500-page graphic novel collection called Infinity War. So I didn't love this. There was some art issues that I had, like this is not really my style of art that I enjoy. Like I enjoy the colors and stuff, but the art looks quite dated because all of this was written either in the late 80s or the early 90s. So that's the final book that I read for Tome Topple. So that was all 6 books that I read for the Tome Topple readathon. I did the maths and I read 4,179 pages in 2 weeks. Like, what? I understand that a lot of that was probably from Infinity Gauntlet, but that's still a fuck ton of reading. Yeah, I definitely plan to participate in other Tome Topples. I'm really looking forward to that. I had a great time and I highly encourage anyone who wants to participate next round. Alright guys, that's everything from me today. I hope you have a magical day and I'll see you next time. Bye!